Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Nothing says true friendship like spotting your childhood bestie $15,500 for her dream wedding, only to find out you're not even on the guest list. Today in the rLounge, it's all about the friendship goals. Friend banned me from her wedding, which I was co-funding. I sued, made her broke and ruined everything. I'm an emotional mess. Excuse me if I just ramble it out here. So, a month back, I got a call from my childhood best friend, Ella. We went to school together. She lived 2 blocks away. Until high school, we were inseparable. We were the kind of friends the entire family knew. However, her family moved to a different part of the city, and we got slightly distanced. We remained connected on social media and hung out at least once a year, or maybe in a few years. You know how life gets in the way, but we were still friends. Not the kind who talks daily, but in a way that we know we're there for each other if something happens. She had big news. She was getting married. The last time we met a year ago, she did tell me about her boyfriend, but marriage wasn't in the cards then. When I heard the news, I was genuinely happy for her. Childhood best friends have a special place in your heart. I thought she called me to invite, but she wanted me to be a part of the wedding preparation. I saw this as an opportunity to strengthen our bond. I mean, who doesn't want to see their childhood bestie walk down the aisle? She said it was overwhelming and she was swamped with tasks and asked if I'd help out. Of course, I jumped at the chance. I geared up as if this was my only task in life. What better way to catch up and relive old times than over wedding dress shopping and flower decor, right? At first, it was fun. She ran the designs and other plans through me before finalizing it. It made me feel so special. But then, things started getting weird. She started borrowing money from me for every other thing. The first time it happened was when we went shopping for her shoes. She picked out fancy bridal shoes and at the cash register exclaimed, "Oh no, I'm out of cash. Could you spot me?" I immediately jumped in without thinking twice. I assumed she would pay me later. 2 to 3 days passed, but she didn't. I thought maybe she forgot. But she'll pay when she remembers. Then, next she asked me to tag along for her dress trial. While she was on it, she asked me to float in and she'll pay everything back once her paycheck clears. I agreed to it, seeing that she was keeping a tab of the money she borrowed. She fed with the story that payment from her overseas client was stuck at the exchange, and as soon as it hit her bank, she would clear off her debts. Then one day she called me in a full-blown panic that her wedding planner was threatening to cancel unless she paid a $10,000 deposit immediately. She had yet to receive the check from her client and begged me to help her out. I hesitated for a second, but I'd known her forever. Plus, I wanted to believe she'd never take advantage of me. So I transferred her the money. My stomach churned as I hit send, but I had no reason to not trust her. Our families had known each other, and the situation did seem genuine. Anyone could be at her place. I know if my paycheck gets delayed a month before my wedding, I would also have to end up borrowing from friends and family. Yeah, it did strike me why she wasn't asking for help from her fiancé or her parents. Then I thought maybe they were pitching for other stuff, which I don't know. Or maybe she doesn't want to take help from them. Some people rely on friends more than family. She swore up and down she'd pay me back the moment her paycheck came through. Sure, no problem. It's her wedding, and I wanted to support her. But this kept happening. A $200 makeup here, a $300 hair accessory there. It added up, fast. I also found myself knee-deep in other wedding-related tasks. She asked me to help her design wedding invitations. I spent hours researching the perfect templates and fonts. She couldn't decide on a menu, so I joined her for multiple tastings, always footing the bill because of her promise. "I'll pay you back soon. I'm keeping a tab of all the borrowings." When she needed a ride to meet vendors, I'd drop whatever I was doing to chauffeur her around. I even stayed up one night helping her hand make wedding favors because she wanted a personal touch. I often wondered if she had no other friend except me to help her out. I even asked her about this, and she said, "It's hard to find genuine friends these days. Childhood friends hit home. No one can replace them." At every step I told myself, this is what friends do for each other. Sure, I was exhausted, but I reminded myself about our decade-long friendship, our sleepovers gushing over our crush and heartbreaks and much more. How as a teenager we dreamed about having each other by our side on our big day, and it was coming true. I felt like I was helping her create one of the happiest days of her life, and that made all the effort worth it. Also, talking about the maid of honor, when I asked her who was going to be, she said it would be her sister. She said her sister could not let anyone else be a maid of honor, so that spot is fixed. I was slightly disheartened, but her sister is 10 years younger than her and still in her teenage years. So that made sense, and there was nothing I could do about it. I sucked it up. Fast forward to today. We went out shopping for a gown she's going to wear at the family dinner this weekend. While on that, I overheard her talking to the wedding planner, instructing him to put a scanner through the gates and only the guests with a QR code got an entry. She asserted, "If there are trespassers, I'm not paying for the extra plates." I was surprised. QR code? What QR code? I hadn't received any invite, let alone a QR code. Until then, it didn't even occur to me that she hadn't sent me an invite. I was assuming I didn't need one. I'm by her side all the time. Why would I need an official invite? When she came out of the trial room, I playfully brought it up. "Hey, you haven't sent me the invite yet. I'm officially yet to be invited." I laughed as I said this, thinking it'd be funny. Her expression froze for a split second before she plastered on an awkward smile and looked straight at my face and said, "Oh, yeah, about that. The wedding is just with the family. I'm not inviting any friends." I laughed, thinking she was joking. I held on to my expression, thinking she would crack up. She didn't. I was like, "Wait, what?" She repeated with a straight face, "It's a super intimate wedding, you know? Only blood family. Sorry." The realization hit me like a truck. I'd been running around for weeks, spending my money, and I wasn't even on the guest list. I stared at her, stunned. I'd been bending over backward to help her. I'd forked over thousands of dollars, and I wasn't even worth an invite? I asked her with a shaky voice, "So, I'm good enough to pay for your wedding, but not good enough to attend it?" She stammered some excuse about budget issues and keeping it small, but I was done. I walked out before I said something evil. She held my hands and said, "Why are you overreacting? It's my wedding and I get to decide who attends it." I said, "Sure," and shrugged off her hands and walked away. Now I wished I should have given it back on her face instead of keeping it to myself and bloating. It's past midnight. I just can't sleep. My mind is replaying every moment of the past few weeks. All the hours I spent helping her, all the money I shelled out, all the inconveniences I'd ignored. I have a full-time job and a life. I toss aside everything to be by her side. I'm feeling betrayed, humiliated, and used. A part of me wants to let it go. After all, it's her wedding and it's her choice whom she wants. But the other part of me couldn't shake the anger and hurt. I'd always been there for her, and she couldn't even extend the basic courtesy of inviting me to her big day? Am I being unreasonable here? Okay, so your childhood best friend hit you up for unpaid wedding labor, drained your bank account, and then banished you to the not blood family abyss like you're just some rando? And you're worried about overreacting? For real? A $10,000 deposit for her wedding planner? You got played. Update 1. Sorry, I had to lock the comments. It became so overwhelming for me to respond to the weird remarks. People start judging even before reading the whole stuff. I posted it here just to vent out and not let others question my sanity. It's easy to judge others. For those who checked on me, a quick update to let you guys know I'm doing better. I realized if she didn't want me at her wedding, fine. It's her choice and I shouldn't be bothered about it. At the same time, I shouldn't let her exploit me. I was battling my thoughts about asking her for the money, but I waited for my nerves to calm down. I was emotional, but didn't want to show my gullible self. The incident I talked about in my first post happened on Tuesday. I waited for a couple of days before asking her to pay the debts. Come Thursday, and I woke up with a message. "Please send me $500. It's an emergency." I laughed and slept for an hour more. I got a few missed calls from her, maybe as a reminder to respond to her messages. I ignored it. Then she called me. Initially, I thought of ignoring it, but then I was like, let's face it. I answered the call in the most normal way. I started off saying, "Glad you called first. I was about to remind you to pay off the money I lent." She mumbled something about the awaiting paycheck, but I just overpowered her and said, "It's $15,500. You have my account details, right? Also, can you make it quick?" She was quiet for a second, then asked, "Are you trying to get back at me for not inviting you to the wedding?" I didn't know what to say. It was true that I was offended, but I didn't want to say that, so I remained quiet. She ranted that she was under pressure for the wedding and how it was so difficult to manage with her paycheck delay. I said, "Sorry, it's not my problem. I pitched in when you needed me, and now I want it back." She snapped at me saying, "I don't have time for this. I'm getting married in a week. Can you please foot in $500 ASAP?" I couldn't believe her audacity. I snapped back, "Can't you hear what I said? I'm not sparing a quarter on you anymore." She brushed it off, saying, "Chill. Why are you being dramatic? I would return it eventually." I couldn't hold my anger any longer and screamed, "You know what? I want my money back. All of it. Now." To my surprise, she chuckled and said, "Don't be a baby. It's just a few grand. You have plenty." I was shocked. She went on to say, "I know you make pretty good. 10 to 15 grand won't break your bank. It won't even create a dent." I was like, "You witch. Knew I was financially sound and that's why you exploited me." She tried to defend herself, but I hung up on her. Everything was clear. She used me and I was not going to let it go. To have everything on record, I sent her a voicemail asking for the money. I gave her 24 hours to pay back. To my luck, she replied to me through voice message saying, "I don't have the time for this. Get over it. I'll pay when I have it." Well, great. I put together my bank statement, debt details, and her voicemail, and went to sue her. I never imagined it would come to this, but I was left with no choice. Her intention was apparent from her tone. She was in no mood to return the money, and I was not going to let it pass. My brother's boyfriend is a lawyer, and I'm good friends with him. I immediately contacted him, and he started the paperwork. The legal notice is supposed to be delivered tomorrow, Sunday, the day of her family dinner. I didn't wish to ruin it, but if it does, I don't mind it either. Since I have started this thread, I'll keep you guys posted. The fact that she still had the audacity to ask for $500 after all of this, and then downplay the debt as just a few grand, is absolutely deplorable. Suing her is absolutely the right move. Update 2. Oh, it was such a mess. So the legal notice was delivered right before her family dinner. When I say right before, I mean it was literally handed to her as she was sipping wine with her in-laws. I paid extra to get it served in person through my lawyer's assistant, and the most interesting part, I accompanied him to serve her. I wanted to witness how devastated she was on receiving the notice. She must have thought it was some last-minute delivery. But nope. Surprise! It was the time for payback, literally. As soon as she saw me with a guy in a suit holding a stack of papers, she went pale. She closed the door behind her and came outside asking what it was all about. The server handed over the papers to her. Her face turned ghost white as she read through it. She panicked so badly that her parents had to intervene, curious about what had her so rattled. I stood there in silence. They asked me what's wrong, and I pointed to the papers. Her mom started yelling, asking why she was being sued days before her wedding. Her dad calmed them down and took them outside to the front porch to discuss, including me. The server took the signature and left. Her fiancé also came out to the door to see what's happening, but her father managed it, saying it was some bank documents. I told him she owed me money and she wasn't in the mood to return. Her dad was disgusted at me that I served her a legal notice for some petty change. He talked about settling the money right there, but then he found out the amount, $15,500. The man nearly had a heart attack. He kept repeating, "You owe her 15 grand?" While Ella kept muttering excuses about her paycheck being delayed and how it's not a big deal. Her dad snapped at her that it was a huge deal, not only for her, but for them as well. They tried to convince me to drop the case and wait until the wedding was over, but I made it clear. 24 hours it was. Sensing the commotion, some of her uncles and aunts also came outside to see what was happening. Though her parents put up a fake smile of no big deal, I'm sure some of them overheard the stuff as they were rolling their eyebrows at each other. I was surprised that even her family dinner had more than 15 plus people. She was clearly lying about the wedding being intimate. Initially, it was just the four of us discussing the matter, but somehow 2 of her aunts and 1 uncle also joined in. One of them asked who I was, why she owed me so much, and why on earth she didn't just pay me back. I even heard someone whispering, "Did she use her friend to fund this whole wedding?" And let me tell you, that didn't sit well with her parents. It became chaos, to say the least. My intention was to serve her and leave, but when the drama unfolded to this level, who wants to miss the chance of watching it from the front seat with popcorn? I could see her in-laws and fiancé staring through the window, and after a while, he just stormed out and asked what's the matter. When they explained the situation to him, his reaction was interesting. He asked Ella point blank why she didn't just invite me to the wedding if I'd been helping so much. You know what she said? "I didn't think it was a big deal." He was stunned. He said something like, "You didn't think it was a big deal to invite someone who basically funded half our wedding? Are you nuts?" At that point, his parents also got involved. They had been helping with some of the wedding expenses, and now they were questioning where their money went. It was absolute chaos. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I told them, "I would like you guys to deal with this, but I want my money back within 24 hours. Her mom pulled me aside and pleaded with me. "We've known you since you were a child. Is there nothing you can do to help out your friend? Please, for our sake, give us some more time until the wedding is over." I said, "Sorry, I cannot let myself get exploited." Her dad said, "You're not going anywhere. You are also going to attend the wedding. You are like our daughter." He was trying to butter me up, and I wasn't going to buy it. I said I don't want to stay in a place where I'm not welcomed, and left. Later, I got to know that after I left, her parents and fiancé sat her down and demanded a full breakdown of her wedding expenses. Turns out, she'd been overspending like crazy. She had splurged on things like custom floral arrangements, premium catering upgrades, and even a live string quartet for the ceremony. The $10,000 I gave her? Yeah, That went straight to the wedding planner's emergency fees, which were apparently not emergencies at all, but just her last-minute whims. The wedding was nowhere small. She didn't invite me because she didn't feel I was close enough or it was a big deal. Could be possibly that she didn't want me to know that it was a grand wedding and I might end up asking her to return the money. It was not at all. I decided to file for a temporary injunction to freeze her accounts until the court case was resolved. My lawyer suggested it was a precaution. She couldn't just blow all her money and claim she had nothing left to pay me. When she found out about this, she went nuclear. She sent me a long, nasty text accusing me of destroying her life and calling me names I can't even repeat here. She said I was jealous that she was getting married while I was still single. On the other hand, her parents tried to guilt trip me, saying being a best friend, how can I do such vile things, and that I should drop all the charges. Her dad called my lawyer and asked for an out-of-court settlement. He insisted on setting up a meeting on the very next day. Her parents accompanied her. She was seething on seeing me. All the matters were discussed, and her parents were livid. They told her she needed to cut down the wedding budget immediately. She was furious and ranted about how this was her dream wedding and she wasn't going to compromise. But her dad put his foot down and said, "You're not dragging this family into financial ruin over a party." She absolutely lost it. She screamed that her day was being ruined and blamed me for everything. Her screams didn't help her get away with it, and they had to pay me every cent she owed, and also a fine for harassing me. I figured out through her Instagram profile that they canceled the string quartet, downgraded the catering, and even cut the guest list further. The cherry on top, she was wearing a different gown than what she had initially bought. I'm guessing her parents asked her to return the expensive designer wedding dress and get something more affordable. But you know what? The universe works in mysterious ways. The incident spread amongst other friends. While I didn't actively go around telling people what happened, however, when one of our common friends asked me, I told her the truth. I got to know that Ella has done this before with her other friends too, and that's why she literally has no friends. She would often forget her wallet while going out for lunch or dinner. She would promise to pay it next time, but that day never came until her friends stopped seeing her. Surprisingly, she never did such a thing to me, and that's why maybe she thought of scamming me big time. Anyway, the wedding was far from as grand as she'd been planning. The guest list was minimized, just parents and siblings, the way she lied. Some services were canceled. The decorations, food, and everything was just the bare minimum. She and her parents scrambled through their bank accounts to pay the vendors. I'm sure she would have a hard time seeing frowning faces on her big day. I'm not going to lie. It felt satisfying to know she couldn't just walk all over me without consequences. Her trying to guilt trip you with friendship or claiming you were jealous, that's classic deflection. She couldn't admit she was wrong, so she tried to manipulate you emotionally. Her parents scrambling to patch things up and offering an out-of-court settlement just proves how desperate they were to salvage the situation she created. Have you ever loaned a friend money for something and they acted like you were their own personal piggy bank? Share your stories with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time. And please put your chair back where you found it.